Now, I have promised you that I'm going to stick to nonfiction, but I've always wanted to write one of those what-if stories, you know, go back to the Twilight Zone and rewrite history and create a parallel universe. Like, what if the communists got the bomb first in World War II? Would the Russians have taken over? Or what if John F. Kennedy had lived? Or, okay, what if it was 1968? Now, the president is 47 years old, and that's still pretty young. I mean, Johnson would have been 60 and Nixon 55. And it's 1 year after the Summer of Love in San Francisco. And the kids here are growing their hair long, and they're listening to psychedelic music and the Velvet Underground and the Fugs and Frank Zappa, anything by the Doors, you know, because Jim Morrison got busted, remember that? And there's a lot of talk about free speech, and it seems like everybody's starting their own underground newspaper. Now, they're challenging the government, or they're trying to change the world, and there are student protests, there are demonstrations. And 1968 was the year that Martin Luther King was assassinated, and then Bobby Kennedy, and by July 4th, 25,752 American soldiers had been killed by communist forces in Vietnam. Anti-war demonstrators tried to crash the Democratic Convention in Chicago, and they went after headlines by calling for a third political party, and they ran a pig named Pegasus for president. And you know the rest of the story. You know, the Mayor Daley's cops rolled over them, and Nixon got elected. And I think it was Abby Hoffman who said, well, you know, no matter who you vote for, the government's still going to get elected. So that fits my story. I'm back to my what-if storyline, where there's no Pegasus, there's only one political party, and activists have been pressuring the president. Now he listens. And by spring, censorship and political harassment is almost completely abolished. There's some new political parties that are about to form, and they're offering a wider choice of candidates. There's something warmer, it's almost wonderful, it's blowing in the wind. Now, that was Dylan, but there's no room for him in here, but you get the idea. Now, not everyone is fighting the system. Even more radical here might be the artists and the poets and the hippies who are peacefully turning their back on the establishment. Because instead of trying to work out political alternatives, they're building alternatives, a second culture. It's a counterculture is what you call it. So here, meet one of my central characters, an art student. He calls himself Phantasmagoria, or Magor for short. He's got the long hairs and the glasses, and he's speaking to a crew. Poetry and music are the last zone of freedom. We live in an alien, unfriendly world. But we don't need permission to be free. We live as though we are free. Now, Magor is crazy as I am about the mothers of invention. And by now, Zappa would have recorded Plastic People, which is one of my favorites. So I'm going to use it in the story. Here's the lyrics. Okay, take a day, walk around and watch the Nazis run your town, then go home and check yourself, and you think we're singing about somebody else. So Magor and his friends form a band. They call themselves the Plastic People of the Universe. They're not into politics. They simply want to play rock and roll. But sometimes what happens to you because of the kind of music that you like, or the way you dress, or wear your hair, can be very political. You ask anybody who's into reggae, or punk, or rap, what that stands for with them. Now, the Plastic People, they play a gig wearing these long white robes, and they wear makeup, and they start throwing live fish into the audiences. I mean, it's a happening, you know. And the next time they decide to dress up like birds, okay, they're very 60s, they're very pop. And it's all a lot of fun until something goes way wrong. So I tell my artists here, I want you to draw Russian tanks rolling down Main Street. He knows exactly what they look like because he used to draw a lot of war comics, especially about Vietnam.